Okay, so our client is now ready to be turned so that we can work on the back. Now obviously before we turn our client, there's a few things we must remember to do, or it could be very uncomfortable for them. At the beginning of the routine, you would have asked if they wanted any support. And when the client's on their back, they normally want support under their knee, or maybe under their back. If that's the case, you would need to take those out before you turn your client, because they will turn on those supports and they will now be putting pressure on their knees or on their stomach. So make sure you take those away. The other thing that you will need to do is to remove the pillow that the client may be laying on, because that pillow is obviously going to be in their way, and you want their face to go into the peephole so that you can work on a nice straight spine if possible. Now if the client's claustrophobic, then obviously they may not want their face into that peephole, so that's fine. There's other things that you can do, and I will show you those. But first, what I am going to do is to remove the pillow that my client is laying on at the moment. And obviously I'll be letting her know, because she's going to be wondering what it is I'm doing. Replace my bedding. Okay, so now when I turn my client, I'm in a position to replace the towels if need be. That would normally be underneath the ankles, sometimes the ridge here. The client might want something supporting between the stomach and her breasts. So you do check that when you turn your client. But first I'm going to show you how you turn your client to maintain privacy and to make the client feel comfortable and not uncomfortable. So arms first need to be inside, and this is the process you would use before and after doing the arms, or at any time that you want to put the arms underneath the blankets. You never lift the arm and lift the towel. That's going to expose your client and could make her feel very uncomfortable. You should always take the arm out to the side, lift the towel and bring the arm back into the side. That means the towel's now just flopped back onto their arm without exposing them. And of course you want that arm to be underneath for when you turn your client. So to turn your client, you would always have the curtains closed. So at this point, you would close the curtains, but stay inside with her. You don't want her turning on her own. She will turn, take the covers off, they will fall on the floor, or she will end up laying on them, and so on. So what we do is we bring the towels or blankets, if you're using blankets, forward enough to lean on. So I'm leaning on them, they're not going anywhere. You would lean over, remember your curtains are closed now, but you can still see your client, she knows that. So we try to protect her privacy by lifting the towels high like this and asking her to turn away from the towels so that she's now on her stomach. The towels are held high. I cannot see over the top of those towels. My client has got a curtain one side and towels the other side, completely protecting her privacy. I am now going to reposition my towels or blankets to make sure that the feet are still warm, totally covered, and my client is comfortable. What I'm going to do now is allow my client to put her head inside the peephole. So she's now looking down, and I have, when I get to the back, full access to a nice straight spine. Now the other ways that we can support the client if she doesn't want her head in the peephole is by rolling up one of your small towels into a sausage and making a horseshoe, so her head is resting on the horseshoe. You could, if the client wants her head on the side, we wouldn't recommend it for obvious reasons, but we're quite happy to leave the pillow in for her so she can turn her head on the side, but obviously it is better if her spine is straight. And that is how we would now prepare our client for the back part of the massage and the back of the legs. And at the end of the routine, we would do exactly the same thing to allow her to go onto her back so that she can rest and eventually prepare to get off the bed.